We ready? Are we good? Shooters down. Are we good to move?
We're clear.
Let's move. Let's move.
We're clear.
Come on.
Let me get my shoes. Let me get my shoes.
I got you, sir. I got you, sir.
Let me get my shoes, sir.
Hold that in your head. It's bloody.
So we gotta move to the bus. Let me get my shoes.
Okay, my shoes down.
Watch out.
Regardless of how many times you see this video, you see that unfold, it is chilling every single time. Ardasha Burns, who was at that rally speaking to rally goers after the shooting about the horror they had just witnessed.
I heard several gunshots. The man beside me suffered a gunshot wound to the head, was instantly killed, fell to the bottom of the bleachers. Another woman looked like she got hit in the forearm or hand.
Somebody got killed. Somebody died. Somebody got shot. Like, this close to where we were. Those bullets, I pray to God for these people's families.
I'm really not scared for my own. None of us in that front row went down to the ground. Not a one. We wanted to only help the president. That's all we wanted to do. Either we could protect him, we could stand around him. I didn't see one person in the row hit the ground. Not one.
I'm honestly shocked this didn't happen earlier. I was commenting to my friend who went to the event with me. I was like, the back behind the bleachers, it's really open. It seems like a really open venue. And it just, I got this sense that, if someone really wanted to do something. And again, I was openly talking to her, and I was like, if something bad was going to be happening, this is the perfect venue to have. I just said this like an hour before it happened. I was like, this would be the perfect place to do it. And, surprisingly enough, it happened.
All right, we have been here in Butler all this morning reporting about what we have seen. There are a few things that are striking about this scene. Behind me, I just want to give you a scene center. Where that flag is, that's where President Trump was speaking on the other side of the barn. The barn on the right, that's where those law enforcement snipers were. That video that has gone viral of the snipers on this side firing at the alleged assassin. And then just down the road here, I'm talking about 20, 30 seconds in the car, is the entrance to that glass factory, that glass research area. You can see it right here in the map. That's where the alleged assassin was perched on that rooftop, firing at President Trump, ultimately hitting him in the ear, killing a rally goer, and critically injuring 2 others. You can see investigators on the rooftop this morning. This is new video we shot this morning when we got here. It also speaks to investigators working around the clock. This was just before 7 a.m. They were out there on top of the roof, about a dozen of them, collecting evidence and also bringing down some type of machinery. There's also new reporting this morning about the weapon used in the shooting. Officials tell NBC News the person who fired at former President Trump yesterday used an AR-15 style rifle. Still today, a lot of unanswered questions about how this assassination attempt happened and how much worse it could have been.
Overnight, former President Trump walking off his plane hours after surviving this assassination attempt.
Something that said, take a look at what happened.
Shots ringing out as President Trump ducks down. Secret Service agents rush to his side, forming a protective shield. Other officers in tactical gear, armed with long guns, post up at the front of the stage.
Hold, when you're ready, on you. Ready, move!
Trump's security detail lifting him up from the ground as he raises his fist, his ear and face bloodied, gesturing to the crowd. The Secret Service then moving him into a waiting SUV. Another angle showing Secret Service agents reacting to the shots. The former president posting on his Truth Social account that he, quote, was shot with a bullet that pierced the upper part of my right ear. I knew immediately that something was wrong in that I heard a whizzing sound, shots, and immediately felt the bullet ripping through the skin. This stunning photo from the New York Times capturing what appears to be a bullet on the right-hand side of the image whizzing by the former president's ear.
If he had not moved his head at that nick of time, it could have been a lot worse.
Mr. Trump extending his condolences to the family of the person at the rally who was killed, and also to the family of another person that was badly injured.
The man beside me suffered a gunshot wound to the head, was instantly killed.
President Biden, who learned about the tragic events, condemned the shooting.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. We cannot be like this. We cannot condone this.
This video shows the body of the alleged assassin on the roof of a building, his spot just roughly 150 yards from where Mr. Trump was speaking. One witness telling BBC News he saw the shooter.
We noticed the guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? Like they didn't know what was going on. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
Early this morning, the FBI identifying the alleged gunman as Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20 years old, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. But why he allegedly wanted to kill former President Trump, still unclear. The FBI now leading an investigation involving the Secret Service, ATF, and state and local law enforcement on the ground in Butler, Pennsylvania. The alleged gunman killing one spectator and gravely injuring 2 others.
This evening we had what we're calling an assassination attempt against our former president, Donald Trump.
And we do have an update on those 2 victims that were also injured yesterday at the rally. Officials from the Allegheny Medical Center have told NBC News that those 2 victims are still in critical condition. So still a very, very serious time there at that hospital to keep those 2 victims still alive. We are joined live now by John David Longo. He is the mayor of Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, and was standing just behind former President Trump at the rally yesterday. Mayor, thank you so much for joining our special coverage. Mayor, walk me through what you remember, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt.
I think, it's safe to say we all felt a mix of emotions. Everyone that was there with me on the ground that day was all smiles. It was a joyous occasion. We were all reminiscing about President Trump's 2020 visit on Halloween night to us in Butler County, where we had all had such a good time that we were really looking forward to reliving that experience. And then, of course, that was taken from us. The day took a complete 180 when this maniac decided to do violence on President Trump and on his supporters.
What do you remember hearing and seeing when it happened?
I remember standing, and just to be clear on where I was sitting, I was just stage left. So at the president's 3 o'clock, in the first row there, just the barrier between us and his stage. I remember looking at the president. He was actually looking in our direction. He was referring to a screen behind us where there was a graph on. He was referring to something there, and I heard the shot. The first time, that I heard that shot, I thought there's no way that could be gunfire. It just sounded too quiet to have been gunfire. I thought surely it could have been a firecracker, and certainly because we were in the middle of Butler County, which is deep Trump territory. I just couldn't have imagined that was the case. Of course, I heard a second and a third and a fourth shot ring out quickly thereafter. So I confirmed what I didn't want to believe, and that was what I thought at the time was a small caliber gunfire. So we all hit the ground. I asked everyone around me to get down low to the ground, especially my wife. I started to scan the area around me, not knowing exactly where the fire was coming from, but I knew for sure that it was coming from behind us because you could quite literally hear the rounds. From that moment, I poked my head up over to see the president, and I saw the Secret Service pounce on top of him to protect him. But then I saw them stand him up, and I saw him raise his fist in triumphant defiance in that moment, and to let everybody know that he was okay. But unfortunately, and something that I can't get out of my mind is the unfortunate individual who was seated 15 to 20 feet behind us in the bleachers who lost his life. And then, of course, the others who were critically injured. It's sad to think that they came to that rally looking for a message of hope. And instead, they were met with violence. And for one individual, that man would not be allowed to go home to his loved ones because he was going to enjoy what he thought was going to be a message of hope for the day.
It is incredibly sad, and it is completely unacceptable in this country, in this day and age. I do want to ask you, when you sort of realized what was going on, were you able to look over and see where the gunfire was coming from, or see the law enforcement snipers exchanging fire with the man you described as a maniac?
No, I didn't see the exchange, but I heard it. From my vantage point, the bleachers, while I was down that low, the bleachers were kind of blocking my view. And again, we didn't quite know exactly where the gunfire was coming from at that time. I think that the folks in the bleachers were more aware of where that gunfire was coming from exactly, because they were, unfortunately, they were very much so in between us and the gunman. And so, no, I didn't see that. And I didn't see anybody on top of the roof. It wasn't until after the fact that I realized exactly where that gunfire was coming from.
Mayor, have you learned anything more about this assassin, about what drove him, maybe why he did this? We know he wasn't from this community exactly, but he wasn't from too far from here.
I couldn't tell you anything more about motive, sir. I think we all have our own opinions and guesses on why somebody would be driven to do this. What I will say is that it's very clear that, and I'm going to continue to refer to him as an animal and a maniac, was unwell mentally. My first thoughts, though, without knowing motive, are that there is a lot of vitriol and hateful rhetoric that's oftentimes directed at President Trump and his supporters, and some very strong language that's used sometimes. So, it's my hope that hateful rhetoric from the left, these claims that Donald J. Trump's presidency would destroy any remnant of democracy in the United States, or create some kind of theocratic fascist state where women would have no rights. It's really my hope that kind of language isn't what motivated this.
Yes, Mayor, I understand that. And I don't think it's time to get into a debate about, both sides and who says what, because I think it's still too early and still too fresh. And what we need right now is information about why this happened and why it wasn't prevented. And in that line of questioning, I do want to ask you, you mentioned you've been to other Trump rallies before. Did you notice the same amount of security, less security, more security than those other rallies?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Entering the venue, I thought the Secret Service did a great job handling the giant volume of people. They were thorough in their checks. Our law enforcement professionals on the ground around Butler County were there, and they showed their priority, which was to keep all of us safe. And the rate at which they addressed that threat and neutralized it was impressive. So, again, I'm not going to add any comment. I'm not going to point fingers and say that something was lacking there. I just want to say that from what I saw, law enforcement professionals did a great job, and we're grateful to them for everything that they did.
Mayor, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for sharing your experience. I'm sorry this has happened to your community, to you, and to your wife. And of course, our thoughts are with those two victims and that other rally goer who just came here to watch somebody he wants to vote for president and ended up dying. It is truly horrific.
Well, thank you for having me.
Right now, we're joined by another guest. His name is Robert Philpott. He's from this community, from Butler. Robert, come here and talk to us, if you will. You can come a little closer.
Sure.
You stopped us here. We're here doing our show, and you stopped us, and you wanted to talk to me, and you wanted to tell me something. We just heard the mayor there of Slippery Rock talk about the other Butler rally that he had been to. You were talking to me about that rally as well. Tell me the message you wanted me to understand, because there was something different about that rally versus this rally that you noticed.
Yeah, my daughter and I went, I guess it was 4 years ago, at the Butler Airport, not even 5 miles from here. it was an awe-inspiring event. We were just like, wow. But the one thing we noticed, we walked in there, and her and I, you know, we're close. And the one thing we noticed that the airport has a lot of hangars, buildings kind of like this, but they hold planes. Every rooftop of every hangar had 3, 4, 5 guys on top of it with
When
guns.
you say guys, snipers? Law enforcement with long guns on top?
Long guns,
okay.
yes. And even some of them in the sniper position, just scanning everywhere. And my daughter turned to me.
To the point where you got there, you noticed them right away?
Immediately. It was the first thing she said to me. She goes, oh my gosh, Dad, look at this. She goes, I never felt so safe in my life. Those were her exact words.
This is 4 years ago in the rally by the airport.
Correct.
The other airport. Okay.
Right. So she didn't come with me this time because she's eight months pregnant, and the heat and everything else, but she really wanted to. So that was so much on our minds there that we talked about it for, I don't know, we just talked about it. We were like so awe-inspired by the, wow. First thing I did when I got here yesterday was I did a complete look around at every rooftop. And I said to myself, that's strange. I don't see one cop, sniper, nothing. I don't see anything. And I just thought, that was kind of weird.
And at what time is this when you're sort of looking around trying to see what you saw 4 years ago?
It's probably about, well, 4 years ago, we noticed it.
Today, I mean, or yesterday. What time was that when you started looking?
Probably about 2 hours before he came on stage.
Okay.
But I didn't stop looking because it's something that was in my mind because of it was so noticeable back then, but it was also just as noticeable not being that way.
And then did you notice, because on that barn right there, that's where the law enforcement snipers were that engaged with the alleged assassin. Did you notice them?
I did not. I noticed nobody because I scanned every roof. And I just thought it was strange because when they show the Google Maps looking down, it really doesn't give the entire picture of the area because right beyond that, there's all kinds of buildings. And that's why I looked around because...
You're saying there's a lot of high points. If somebody was on another roof and wanted to fire towards the
right across
president.
68 right here, there's a big sports complex has a high roof. I knew the AGR building because I know of it.
That's where the assassin was planted on top of.
Correct. I was going to park there because I know a lot of people coming from out there, they don't know the area. And I'm thinking that would be a great place to park. It's close. It's real close. I could park right there. I'd be out quick because it's right off the main road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we're going to park there, and then you decided not to.
Yeah, but I decided not to because there was so much traffic on this main road that I couldn't get to it. So I
couldn't get to it. Did you even drive by? Did you see it?
I drive by it every day.
It's easy because I drove by it as well. It's easy to walk into, essentially. Like if you were to drive over there, you could walk right into it.
Well, that's why I was going to park there because I knew that. Yeah. But I decided not to, only because the traffic was so bad that it would have taken me an hour to get to it.
Yeah.
So I just parked further down and walked in. But it was I still can't process it. I think that's why I came back here today because I wanted to look at the where I was at and say, how lucky are? I mean, somebody died. That's a shame, but I still can't. I mean, last night I was up all night. I don't even think I slept well, thinking. I just can't believe it. I'm just still shocked.
You couldn't believe what you saw.
I can't believe why. I mean, I think the big thing is the why. I mean, have we really come to that point? I mean, I do remember when Reagan was shot. That was that was different, but that was basically the last time. And I'm still, like, I called my daughter, I called my girlfriend, and we were in tears. We were in tears because as I'm walking away, I walked away from the gunshots. I mean, that's the first thing I did was walk away. And there were vendors with Trump supplies, probably as long as this row here. And this one guy's on the phone and he screams, "They just shot Trump. He's down." So I immediately got on my phone and called somebody. And I called my girlfriend. She's in tears going, "Trump is shot. Trump is down. Trump is..." And then I froze. I didn't know whether to go out, whether to go in. I just stayed there and I'm like,
I think a lot of rally goers were probably just like you, Robert. They didn't know what to do, and they were in shock, and they're still in shock. I want to thank you for sharing that information, and we thank you for coming out here. And I'm sorry you had to experience that. Kate, I'm going to send it back to you in New York.
Okay, Tom, thank you. And as we continue to hear more eyewitness accounts like you just heard, officials are, of course, trying to piece together what led to this moment. So far, law enforcement says they have identified the suspected shooter, but they have yet to pinpoint a motive. We have with us now NBC News correspondent Shaq Brewster. He's joining me from outside the suspected shooter's house, alongside NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian, who's here. Shaq, if you can hear me, I'll start with you. What are you seeing and hearing outside? I know there's a court in there. You can't get very close to the home of the suspect, but have you been able to glean any information from law enforcement?
Well, okay, just to kind of explain it a little bit, we're about 35 miles away from where you saw Tom having that conversation there, and we were here overnight. We're here this morning. You mentioned law enforcement's keeping us pretty far away from where we know the suspects or the shooter's home to be. But I want you to take a look at what we're seeing here, and just you get a sense of how far away we are from the where the actual house is. Down there, you see members of law enforcement. You see a police car there. But if you go to the right, that is where we believe the shooter's house is. And when we were here last night, I'll tell you, there were multiple law enforcement agencies here on site. We saw local police. We saw state police. This trooper's vehicle that we actually, let me step out of the side. Step out of the way for him, but this trooper's vehicle, that's a state trooper right there. We saw county bomb squad, and an official officer with the bomb squad actually came up to me at one point yesterday and explained it was about 1 a.m. overnight, and he explained that they were going to be making entry into the shooter's home. His words were imminently. He said that where we were was fine. They said they didn't know what they were going to encounter when they got in or if they would encounter anything, but he gave us a warning that they were going to be entering the shooter's home for the first time, and that was about 1 a.m. Now, I mentioned we also saw federal agencies here. We saw the ATF. They were walking around with a long gun. I should emphasize, it wasn't a tense scene. We know that despite the fact that media has been kept away out of all kind of circling what we know the shooter's house to be, the residents here in this area were able to stay there. They were able to stay in their homes. They spent their night in their homes. Sometimes you saw them peering out of their window or coming up and just seeing what exactly was happening in their community. But we know this is going to be a focus. There's a lot of questions we have about this shooter, not a huge criminal history, not a big social media presence. So a lot of questions that, law enforcement are trying to figure out at the scene of his home.
Appreciate that, Shaq. Ken, let me turn to you and just start from where Shaq left off.
So we don't really know where he stood politically. Records appear to show that Crooks graduated in 2022 from Bethel Park High School, and a local newspaper account lists him as receiving a $500 Star Award that year from the National Math and Science Initiative. Now, in terms of holes in the investigation, right now the FBI is interviewing family and friends and hunting for any digital trail he might have left to determine whether he acted alone and how he became radicalized. And the ATF, of course, is working to determine how and where he bought that semi-automatic rifle he used in the shooting. And of course, Kate, there's a separate and very important line of inquiry into what experts say and what that guest just told Tom appeared to be a profound security failure by the Secret Service here. How a man with a rifle was able to take up an elevated sniper position 148 yards across an open field from the former president.
Yeah. A lot of questions. Ken, thank you for that. I want to take you to another piece of reporting that you have about the rhetoric blaming Democrats for this attack against Trump. You've been looking at how much of that is out there right now and some concerns that could fuel more political violence.
Yeah, there's a lot of it, and there are concerns. Several Republican members of Congress have directly blamed President Biden, Democrats, and the media for the assassination attempt, claiming it was the result of overheated rhetoric about former President Trump and part of a campaign to jeopardize his safety. So, for example, Georgia Republican Congressman Mike Collins posted, "Joe Biden sent the orders." And Senator J.D. Vance wrote, "The central premise of the Biden campaign is that Trump is an authoritarian fascist." That rhetoric led directly to President Trump's attempted assassination. Trump campaign surrogate Nick Adams posted, quote, "Joe Biden's rhetoric is directly responsible. There can be no discussion. This is a fact." And right-wing journalist Sean Davis wrote that, quote, "Deranged Democrats knew Biden couldn't win, so they incited one of their toadies to try and take his opponent out." So a quick fact check here, Kate. It's certainly true that Democrats have called Donald Trump an authoritarian and a threat to democracy, but they have never hinted that violence was an appropriate response to that. And experts really do worry that these false accusations increase the risk of more violence.
All right, Ken Delaney and Shaq Brewster with us. Thank you both so much. I want to turn to NBC News law enforcement analyst and retired ATF special agent in charge, Jim Kavanaugh. He joins me now. Jim, we seem to meet every time there is a really horrific shooting like this. This is exceptional. I want to get your initial reaction. Is the former president lucky to be alive this morning?
He's alive by 3 inches, really, Kate. That's all. I mean, if that bullet was 3 inches, even 2 inches to the right, I mean, it would have penetrated his forehead and he would be deceased. So he's very, very lucky. It was a day of tragedy for the 30-year-old man who was killed and other citizen wounded, and the former president who was wounded. And it was a day of great success for the Secret Service and great failure as well. You know, let's talk about both. The success first. Look, the counter sniper team killed the sniper. And had they not killed him, you know, he might have had, we don't know, a 30-round magazine. He might have been able to continue to pump bullets into the huddle around the former president and killing the Secret Service. That rifle would go right through the Secret Service huddle and right into the president. He could have kept pumping rounds or into the crowd. So the counter sniper team from the Secret Service, you know, excellent, A-plus job, one shot, killed the sniper, did exactly what they're trained to do. Excellent work. The detail on the former president, excellent work. They did the huddle. They got him low. They waited to know the shooter was down. They checked the clear path to the armored vehicle. They got him in it. They got him out. Great work. But the failure is to have an elevated rooftop with nobody on it. And I've never seen them do that before. I've been on many details with them over the years. We were assigned to be in Secret Service details in the ATF. We were both in the Treasury Department, Secret Service and ATF. We were sister agencies, so we worked with them constantly on that. And they always covered those rooftops. The police, uniformed police, or Secret Service on the rooftops, and it's amazing to me that a rooftop that close had no one on it, no one visible, no law enforcement presence on it.
Jim, yeah, I think it's amazing to everyone. Can I ask a standard operating procedure that maybe you will or won't know? Secret Service, obviously there were at least 2 looked like snipers or people in position on a roof that then took out the shooter. Can they preemptively shoot someone if they had seen him, if they had seen a long gun, if they'd seen that he had a semi-automatic rifle? Could they have preemptively shot him?
Yes. If they saw someone crawling up the rooftop with a rifle, they could have shot him. That would be someone who's putting the protected person in imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm. That's a very difficult decision sometimes because, you know, you don't know what you're seeing. How is he dressed? What is he doing? You know, could it be something innocent? So it's a very difficult situation and a decision to make, but they could lawfully make that shot. But what you do is you take that decision away from the sniper by putting uniformed police or uniformed Secret Service on the roof already. They have enough to watch. They're watching wood lines. They're watching a crowd. I mean, somebody could somehow get past the magnetometer checks. It does happen. They have a lot to look at. Take away the rooftops that are close by within rifle range. So they didn't do that, not the sniper team, but the overall detail planners didn't do that. They should have done that. That's a failure.
Jim Kavanaugh, good to have you with us. Thanks so much. And stay with us. Much more of our special coverage here on NBC News Now and MSNBC after a short break.
Head & Shoulders Bare. Clinically proven dandruff protection with just 9 essential ingredients. No sulfates, no silicones, no dyes. Dandruff protection, minimal ingredients. Job done.
Progressive makes it easy to save with a quick commercial auto quote online. So you can get back to your monster to-do list.
Really?
Get a quote at progressivecommercial.com.
The Keepsake Frames app makes it ridiculously easy to frame your favorite photos. Just choose a photo that you love, select the perfect frame, and you'll have your framed print delivered and ready to hang. Download the free Keepsake Frames app and start framing today.
I managed to get the last room for $190.
I booked the last room a week ago.
I booked yesterday. Some sites panic you into booking their last room. Instead, Trivago compares hotel prices from hundreds of sites, so you can save up to $50 a night. Hotel Trivago.
We're back now with our live special coverage of the assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump. There's been plenty of reaction to the shooting coming in from all sorts of world leaders, also coming in from Capitol Hill. We're joined now by NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Sahil, good to see you. We heard earlier this morning on the Today Show from House Speaker Mike Johnson. I want you to tell us, for those who missed it, what his messaging was.
That's right, Kate. Well, Speaker Johnson called on Americans to turn the rhetoric down, called on political leaders to also turn the rhetoric down, to come together to condemn that horrific act that we saw at the Trump rally yesterday. He also talked about how Congress is going to investigate this and try to get answers as to how it was possible that a man was able to open fire at a rally of a former president when there was ostensibly the strongest kind of security level available there. Let's play some more of what Mike Johnson had to say on the Today Show.
This is a horrific act of political violence. It ought to be roundly condemned. Obviously, we can't go on like this as a society. We have gotten briefings from law enforcement. I spoke to Secretary Mayorkas last night and asked him some pointed questions with regard to Homeland Security and what happened there. I've already announced that Congress will do a full investigation of the tragedy yesterday to determine where there were lapses in security and anything else that the American people need to know.
Now, the House Oversight Chairman James Comer has requested a briefing with the U.S. Secret Service, and there are senators as well calling for briefings and investigations. They're also watching their own security more closely this morning, Kate.
Yeah. It strikes me, Sahil, that just 2 days ago, all we were talking, well, not all, but a lot of what we were talking about was about President Biden and about his future and about his candidacy. And you were talking to Democrats constantly on Capitol Hill. Compare that to where we are now, and what are you hearing from both Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah, it's a night and day. It's a massive, sudden, and understandable shift in the conversation. We're hearing a variety of reactions, and not all of them are calling for turning down the rhetoric. Some of them are actually dialing up the rhetoric, including allies of President Trump on Capitol Hill, Republican allies. Let's show some tweets here. There's Senator J.D. Vance, a potential vice presidential contender, says, everyone join me in praying for our President Trump and everyone at the rally. I hope everyone is okay. In a separate tweet, he said that some of the rhetoric from Democrats and their allies is to blame for this. Senator Marco Rubio, another potential vice presidential contender, said God protected President Trump, posted that with a photo you see of blood on Trump's face as he was walked off that stage. Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, also said, please join Catherine and me in praying for President Trump, his family, and everyone attending the rally today. Universal concern and thankfulness are unharmed, Kate.
And Sahil, talk about what happens next on Capitol Hill. I know they were in session last week. I assume everybody's back in session tomorrow on a Monday?
Yeah, that's right. So tomorrow actually is going to be the Republican convention for next week. So they're not going to be back tomorrow, but they're going to be working starting tomorrow to try to get these briefings scheduled. These are already in the works. There are already conversations in place. That's the gist of it. Briefings, investigations. It's not entirely clear where this goes, but suffice it to say there are a lot of lawmakers who want a lot of answers as to how this could possibly have happened. Meanwhile, there are conspiracy theories and disinformation already percolating online about the nature of this event. And that's also something that the leading members of Congress are pleading, to kind of tone down and not to throw more fuel on this fire, Kate.
Yeah, important for people to check their sources, right, before spreading any information. Sahil, thank you so much. And stay with us. Much more of our special coverage here on NBC News Now and MSNBC. We'll take a quick break and be right back.
We love garage keypads. They're easy and convenient, but you never really know who's using it or when. Introducing the all-new MyQ Smart Garage Video Keypad. With the built-in camera, you get streaming HD video day or night. Create up to 16 custom PIN codes and get real-time notifications when the keypad is used. It's not just the key to your garage, it's the key to your home. Go to myq.com and get $30 off with promo code TV69.
Why use 10 buckets of water when you can use 1 fire extinguisher? And to fight heartburn, why take 10 antacids throughout the day when you can take 1 Prilosec? For easier heartburn relief, 1 beats 10. Prilosec OTC. 1 pill, 24 hours, 0 heartburn.
Whoa, how'd you get your teeth so white?
You gotta use the right toothpaste.
Dr. C?
Not all toothpaste whiten the same.
Crest 3D White removes 100% more stains for a noticeably whiter smile.
New personal best.
Crest.
Welcome back. We are here in Butler, Pennsylvania, where we are covering the attempted assassination of former President Trump last night. The frightening moments caught on camera. Investigators still left with so many questions. 6:03 p.m. Eastern, former President Donald Trump takes the stage at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Minutes later, at 6:11 p.m., as Mr. Trump discusses his record on immigration, the first shots ring out. Mr. Trump grabs his right ear before dropping to the ground as more rounds are fired. People in the crowd begin to scream. Multiple agents pile on top of the president to shield him from the gunfire. Their tense dialogue picked up on nearby microphones.
Hold, when you're ready, on you. Ready, move!
Seconds later, armed officers rush on stage in front of the podium. As word arrives, the shooter is down less than a minute after the first shot.
Shooter's down. Are we good to move? Let's move.
6:12 p.m., agents surround the former president as he is lifted back to his feet and overheard asking if he can get his shoes. 6:13, Mr. Trump's bloody face visible through a wall of Secret Service agents as he lifts a fist in the air, mouthing the word, fight, over and over again. As he's helped down the stairs and rushed into a waiting SUV surrounded by armed police. The FBI now looking into the moments leading up to the shooting, including reports that witnesses saw the shooter on a nearby roof outside the rally perimeter before shots were fired.
I am aware that law enforcement had responded to a number of reports of suspicious activity. The specific response to this will be all part of the after action, but yes, law enforcement was responding to check on several suspicious occurrences.
This frantic cell phone video appears to capture those terrifying moments right before the president was shot. Federal authorities now combing through this footage as they try to figure out this morning, how could this have happened? And we have some breaking news. We have obtained a new image of the gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks. Here it is right here, 20 years old. He's not from Butler, Pennsylvania, but he's from not too far away. Still a lot to learn about this young man who came here apparently with the desire and the urge to kill former President Trump. Of course, he didn't succeed. He was shot and killed by law enforcement. This is the first clear image we're getting of this young man so far. As we get more information about him and possibly his motives, we'll bring that to you. We're also getting new information about a phone call last night between President Biden and former President Trump after the assassination attempt. I want to bring in Aaron Gilchrist, who's reporting more from the White House tonight. Aaron, what do we know about that phone call?
Well, Tom, we knew from President Biden when he spoke last night that he had tried to reach former President Trump. That was about 8:15 when President Biden spoke. So somewhere between then and about 10:30, they were able to have a phone call. And the White House officials described that call to us as good, short, and respectful. The president saying when he did speak around 8:15 that he had reached out and had learned that former President Trump was okay and was hopeful that he would continue to be okay and that he would not be seriously, obviously, injured from the shooting yesterday afternoon. We do know that President Biden, shortly after we learned about this phone call having happened, returned here to Washington. He landed a little after 12 o'clock this morning back here in D.C. He was supposed to stay in Rehoboth Beach through Monday, but obviously returned home early so he could engage with his law enforcement team, his national security team, to get an assessment of what happened yesterday in Pennsylvania. We expect that the president is going to be having that meeting at some point this morning. So somewhere in the next hour and a half or so, that meeting should happen at the White House, Tom.
You know, Aaron, as we take a step back, we've been so focused about the horrific events that have happened here, as we should be, but we can't forget everything that is happening with the current president, right? A president who is running for re-election, had a very tough debate, and has since had some very tough conversations with his own party. How has the events here changed the president's schedule? Because we know he had a very big interview scheduled with our own Lester Holt set for tomorrow. It's been announced he has another big interview with BET, I think, later in the week with Ed Gordon. I believe that's on Wednesday. You have to assume that in defending his own campaign, the strategy might have been to attack his opponent, but now does not seem the time or place for that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It seems at this point as though all campaign activities have stopped. We haven't heard anything from the Biden campaign since this incident yesterday afternoon. We've heard very little from the Trump campaign since yesterday afternoon as well, given the seriousness of what happened to a candidate for president and a former president in Donald Trump. And so I think we're still waiting to hear how and if the president's schedule may change. We know that this meeting today is happening. A senior White House official telling us that beyond that, the president's day-to-day is fluid. So does that mean we might hear from him at some point today? We'll be keeping an eye out for that. As far as his schedule going into the coming week, we know that there were events planned. The president is supposed to speak tomorrow in Texas. I'm supposed to be traveling this afternoon for that engagement at a civil rights anniversary, the anniversary of the Civil Rights Act, I should say. And then he was to travel on to Nevada to speak at two events in Las Vegas later in the week. Of course, you mentioned, Tom, as well, the interview with our colleague Lester Holt, as well as with the folks at BET News. So we're waiting to see if any of that is going to change. At this point, the schedule is intact. And we'll find out whether there's some change to what he's going to do. This event tomorrow was supposed to be an official event compared to the campaign events that were supposed to happen later in the week, Tom.
All right, Aaron Gilchrist with a lot of new reporting for our viewers this morning. Aaron, we appreciate that. I want to go over to my friend Vaughn Hilliard, who has some breaking news that we were just learning about. The former First Lady, Melania Trump, has released a statement talking about what happened last night. Vaughn, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this is notable. Melania Trump will be here at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. She was not at that campaign rally yesterday. It is not clear exactly where her whereabouts are right now. But I wanted to let you look at part of her two-page statement in which she writes in part, quote, "When I watched that violent bullet strike my husband, Donald, I realized my life and Barron's life were on the brink of devastating change. I'm grateful to the brave Secret Service agents and law enforcement officials who risked their own lives to protect my husband. To the families of the innocent victims who are now suffering from this heinous act, I humbly offer my sincerest sympathy. You need to summon your inner strength for such a terrible reason saddens me." She goes on to say, each of us, we all want a world where respect is paramount, family is first, and love transcends. We can realize this world again. Each of us must demand to get it back. We must insist that respect fills the cornerstone of our relationships again. I'm thinking of you, my fellow Americans. Again, we anticipate Melania Trump attending the Republican National Convention. She does not have a speaking slot at this time. She has yet to appear on the campaign trail with her husband, except when they voted in the Republican primary earlier this year. But this, of course, for her and her family, she referenced her son Barron, who just graduated high school earlier this year. This was, of course, a tragic event and one that nearly took the life of her husband. Tom.
And Vaughn, you know, I've had a chance to sit down with the former First Lady for a lengthy interview. And one of the things that came through there, and I know you know this, is that she's incredibly protective of her son Barron, right? And as Barron has gotten older over the years, we're seeing him a little bit more and more. And there has always been a concern, whether it be with Melania or it be with the other Trump children, about the safety of the president. But now it is going to extend to the safety of some of the Trump children as well.
Absolutely. And Barron Trump actually had never appeared on the campaign trail with his father until last week at a rally in Doral, Florida. That was his first campaign event alongside of his father. You had mentioned Melania Trump, very protective of her son. It is not clear exactly why Melania Trump has taken a sidestepped appearing on the campaign through this election cycle with her husband. But we know that upon them leaving the White House, she wanted to focus on getting her son through high school, which is now done. Donald Trump has suggested that Barron kicking off and gaveling in just over 24 hours from now, Tom.
Vaughn, since you're there, have you noticed a security uptick since what happened here last night? That's number one. Number two, does the schedule change at all for former President Trump? Because before this happened, we were all on the cusp of awaiting an announcement of who his running mate was going to be.
I think it poses a lot of questions about the schedule and exactly when he was going to announce his vice presidential running mate. Of course, we heard multiple statements from the likes of J.D. Vance and Doug Burgum, Tim Scott, individuals that are still under consideration, at least as of yesterday morning, by Donald Trump. At this point in time, RNC officials tell NBC News that there are no scheduled plans to change any of the layout of the convention, but of course they can change speakers as they so please and choose to do so. The roll call to formally nominate Donald Trump will begin still tomorrow afternoon. As for security, we went through magnetometers early this morning. Of course, Milwaukee police and federal law enforcement have been preparing for this moment for years here in Milwaukee. There has been fencing that has been going up for weeks here now. Last night, we were here in the late hours outside of this arena where the convention will be taking place tomorrow, and the Secret Service was already beginning its inspection, its sweep to lock down some of these key areas in the immediate perimeter around the convention to ensure the safety and security. We just watched about a couple dozen Indiana State Police that are here on site that came in to neighboring Wisconsin to aid in the protection here. So, of course, this is usually a fanfare type of event, a convention, but of course there's a different aura around this one here right now and a heightened sense of security. Tom.
Vaughn Hilliard in Milwaukee reporting live for us. Vaughn, we appreciate all of your reporting. We thank you for that. Stay with us. Much more of our special coverage here on NBC News Now, right after this break.
Cars look great when they're new, but fade over time. With Cerakote, it's easy to restore your vehicle to look like new again. Restore cloudy headlights with Cerakote's Headlight Restoration Kit. Wipe away faded and oxidized trim with Cerakote's Trim Coat. Get unsurpassed shine and slickness with Cerakote's Rapid Ceramic Paint Sealing. Make your tires look better than new with Cerakote's Tire Coat. Cerakote's #1 selling family of products have over 40,000 5-star reviews and are available for under $20 at these leading retailers today.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance, and I saved hundreds. With all the money I saved, I thought I'd buy stilts. Being so tall definitely has its advantages.
Oh, wow.
Here you go, kiddo.
Thanks.
Hi, honey. Ready to go?
Yep. There it is. There it is. There we go. I guess it also has some disadvantages.
Yes, it does.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
We are continuing to cover yesterday's assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump during a political rally in Pennsylvania. We have a new photo of the suspected shooter, 20-year-old Matthew Crooks from Pennsylvania. Let's bring in Clint Watts. He's an NBC News national security analyst. Clint is also a contributor and a distinguished research fellow at the Foreign Policy Research Institute. It's good to see you, Clint. Thanks for being here. In a memo to campaign staff this morning that we were able to obtain this morning, Trump campaign leaders said they're going to enhance the armed security presence with 24/7 officers on site wherever Mr. Trump is now. We think he's in Bedminster, New Jersey at the moment. I know the Secret Service has also said that they had already added protective resources and technology and capabilities because the campaign travel was increasing in tempo. Can you speak to how things might change moving forward now and how difficult it will be to secure future events, like even this week?
Security should always be driven by the threat assessment. And if we learned anything yesterday with this tragic event, the threat assessment is at its absolute highest. So every security detail around the country, and that's for both of the candidates here in 2024, will have to be increased immediately. The second part of it is the enduring challenge going all the way back to the shooting of Congressman Gabby Giffords, which is how do you protect elected officials and candidates running for office when they are trying to engage with potential voters and constituents in public places. The whole idea of our democracy is they can go out, be with the people, engage with people. This is extremely challenging and very resource intensive. It takes an incredible amount of manpower. And with the travel schedule of President Trump or President Biden, coordinating that from local to state to federal resources at each one of these locations very rapidly, one stop after another, almost an impossible security challenge. So they're going to need a tremendous amount of increase in both technology, vigilance, and in terms of manpower to protect these two.
Yeah, law enforcement officials have said that they recovered a semi-automatic rifle from the scene. We've been reporting that this morning, just learned that this morning. Can you remind us why that gun is considered highly dangerous?
With semi-automatic rifles, a few key things, as opposed to the open bolt type rifles that you sometimes see for deer hunting, let's say. Semi-automatic allows you to fire one shot with every trigger pull and have a magazine that's loaded with shells, which means that you can fire many times in a row without reloading. And you can also do that very quickly. You could hear that from the audio yesterday whenever this tragic event happened. The other part of it is a rifle, which gives you extended range. The stage to where the shooter was about 150 yards. This is well within the range of that type of a weapon. So when you have a semi-automatic weapon at an elevated position on top of a roof, in somewhat of a defilade and able to shoot multiple rounds, that is your worst case scenario for trying to protect a principal such as President Trump.
Clint, we've been talking about this all morning, and it's for another day to assess what went wrong yesterday. But I do wonder your thoughts since we have you. You know, a lot of people, eyewitnesses saying that they saw things that they tried to tell local law enforcement. What do you take away from all that?
The biggest challenges in a situation like this is for the Secret Service or any sort of security is rapidly going into a town where there's a rally, providing security, and then coordinating from local to state to federal levels. There's some indication there was communication of suspicious activity, but how do you synchronize that with teams that haven't worked together often? The challenge here is this is not, let's say, defending the White House, where you have regular teams that know their processes and know their battle drills for how to respond to these things. In this case, you're having to do it with unknown relationships, oftentimes task forces that are thrown together very quickly. And there ultimately is just not enough resources likely to move from one location to another in a giant federal apparatus like this. It's always been a challenge. So you're limited to the number of Secret Service officers available. And that was the perimeter that they set up, was probably based on that resourcing.
Clint Watts, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it. We're going to have much more from the scene in Butler, Pennsylvania, right after this.
Rise up this morning, smile with the rising sun. Saying, this is my message.
Sandals Rhythm and Blues Caribbean sale is now on. Visit sandals.com or call 1-800-SANDALS.
Sleep more deeply and wake up rejuvenated. Purple Mattresses exclusive Gel Flex Grid draws away heat, relieves pressure, and instantly adapts. Sleep better. Live Purple.
cycle moves rather quickly. This is on another level, and what happens on U.S. soil reverberates around the world, and world leaders will be watching closely if and how the political climate there will change.
Yeah, absolutely. Danielle Hamamdjian, thank you so much for that perspective. Appreciate it. Stay with us. Our special coverage on NBC News Now and MSNBC. We'll be right back. We'll continue in just a moment.
This is an NBC News special report.
We are following the breaking news we've been following now for better than 12 hours. The former president of the United States, Donald Trump, shot by a gunman at a campaign rally. I'm Kate Snow at NBC headquarters in New York.
And I'm Tom Yamas in Butler, Pennsylvania, the site of that campaign rally. It happened just behind me. Former President Trump speaking under that American flag when someone tried to kill him. This is now the scene of a sprawling investigation, still in its early stages. The major questions at this hour: how could a gunman have gotten so close to the former president? And why did he try to kill the man who was once the leader of the free world? The terrifying moment on that stage, former President Trump hit in the ear with a bullet, dropping down as Secret Service agents swarmed